My name is Marcus Webb. I'm 28 years old. And if you've ever worked a real night shift, you know there's a difference between being alone and feeling like the dark has decided you're worth paying attention to. I took the job at Northbridge Corporate Complex because it was supposed to be the first kind of alone. Just me and my black hoodie with the faded logo, dark jeans and steel-toe boots doing laps through empty corridors, and watching security cameras in a room that hummed like a refrigerator. After 6 months of living on gas station coffee and whatever was cheapest in the frozen aisle, a steady paycheck and no customers sounded like heaven. The building itself is one of those glass and concrete blocks on the edge of town, 8 floors, underground parking, the kind of place that looks important in the daytime and dead at night. Officially, it's a multi-tenant technology campus. Unofficially, 3 of the floors don't have listed occupants and 2 sublevels don't exist on any fire evacuation map. My contract said I was hired by Northbridge Facilities. The badge they gave me said partner agency. The orientation packet had a logo I didn't recognize, a simple black lattice inside a circle with tiny letters AEG beneath it. I should have paid more attention to that. First night, the day guy, a thick-necked ex-cop named Harris, walked me through the basics: door checks, motion alerts, how to reset the elevators when they glitched. Then he pointed at the 11th monitor in the bank and his voice changed. "That one you don't touch," he said. "If it lights up, you call this number and do exactly what they say." The camera feed it showed was just a static shot of an empty white hallway I'd never seen in the building, with a single gray door at the end, labeled SUBLEVELC. The number taped under the monitor was a federal prefix. I asked Harris where the hallway actually was. He shrugged like he'd decided not to know on purpose. "Above your clearance," he said. "Don't go looking for it. You'll know enough when you get your first weird shift." I thought he meant a drunk guy in the lobby or a raccoon in the loading bay. Instead, what I got 10 nights later was the security system screaming to life at 3 in the morning, and every monitor in the room cutting to black except that one. I was halfway through my second can of vending machine coffee, clicking through the usual empty offices and motionless stairwells, when a tone I'd never heard before came through the speakers. A low, descending 3-note chime that made my molars ache. The main console froze and a red banner opened across the top of the screens. Origin, DHS Black, Priority, Silent Grid. Then, in bright white letters across my whole board, Emergency Alert, do not leave the building. Remain away from exterior glass. Do not respond to anyone seen on camera performing actions you do not remember taking. My skin went cold. I read the alert twice just to be sure I wasn't hallucinating. The system required an acknowledgement, so I hit accept, and the moment I did, every feed reset to the normal layout. Offices, elevators, parking lot. Sublevel C, everything looked ordinary, empty, and still. I almost convinced myself it had been some kind of glitch. Then I saw myself on camera 3. Lobby, wide angle, time stamp, 03/04/11. There I was, black hoodie, jeans, boots, walking calmly across the marble floor toward the front revolving door. My heart stuttered because I was sitting in the control room 3 floors up, very much not in the lobby. I checked the live time in the corner of the monitor. 3/04/11, not playback. Live. I zoomed in, hands shaking. The image sharpened. Same scruffy jaw, same tired eyes. The other me reached out and put his hand on the glass like he was testing it, then turned his head slowly and looked straight up into the camera. Right at me. I instinctively glanced at the reflection in the dark window beside my desk to make sure I was still sitting there. I was. No delay, no lag. But on the monitor, the other Marcus smiled. It wasn't a full grin, just a tiny upward pull at the corners of his mouth. Wrong, because I knew exactly how my face felt and I wasn't smiling. I remembered the alert. Do not respond to anyone seen on camera performing actions you do not remember taking. My radio crackled on my belt. Channel 1, the internal building loop, came alive with digital noise, and then a voice that sounded almost like mine said, "Control. This is Webb in the lobby. Door panels acting weird. You seeing this?" The hair on my arm stood up so fast it hurt. I didn't answer. The rule said do not respond. On the screen, the other me tilted his head like he was listening for something. "Control," he said again, a little clearer. "Flood sensors show movement on the east lot. You want me to check it?" There was no way to fake that chatter. Only someone with my badge could see those sensor readouts. My hand hovered over the radio. Instead, I hit the building intercom and patched it only to the lobby speakers. "Stay where you are," I said, my own voice shaking over the PA. "Do not exit the building." The figure in the lobby went still. For a full 3 seconds he didn't blink, didn't move. Then he dropped his hand from the glass and looked up at the camera again. This time the almost smile stretched a little wider, like someone learning how far a mouth could go before it split. "Copy that," he said, staying inside. He walked out of frame. Every monitor in the room flickered. Camera 5, service corridor. Camera 9, loading bay. Camera 12, stairwell B. In each feed, just at the edge of the frame, I caught a glimpse of the back of my own head, the curve of my shoulder in that same hoodie, boots vanishing around corners a half-second before the motion sensors chimed. "You seeing this?" I whispered to the empty room, but the only reply was the soft rising hum of the black rack in the corner as its status lights shifted from green to amber. I told myself it was just a glitch, but the cameras had already decided otherwise that night. If part 1 was the moment I realized something was wrong, part 2 was the moment I realized something wanted me. Wanted inside my routines, my job, my body, my place in the building. And it was willing to use my own movements, my own face, my own voice to take it. Right after the black rack in the corner changed from green to amber, a low-frequency hum rippled through the control room, vibrating the floor under my steel-toe boots like an engine warming beneath concrete. I spun my chair toward it, but there were no fans, no moving parts exposed, just a matte black tower with the same white lattice symbol from my orientation packet and a label. AEG, Analytic Entity Grid. I'd never noticed that before, or maybe it had never been there before. The hum grew louder, not mechanical, almost like breathing, slow, heavy, patient. I backed away from it instinctively, grabbing my radio even though the emergency alert told me not to answer or call anything I saw acting like me. "Harris," I whispered, "you still on channel 2? Nothing, just static." Then, across the monitors, every camera feed blinked once, went black, then returned, but with a 2-second delay, like something had inserted itself between the real-time signal and the output. My stomach tightened. A delay is how a mimic hides. A delay is how something learns you before showing itself. Camera 3, lobby. The other me walked back into frame, hands in hoodie pockets like he was making a casual patrol sweep. He moved exactly like I do, same heavy gait, same slight turn of my shoulders from an old injury, same habit of checking the corners. But he wasn't looking at the corners now. He was looking at the camera, watching me watch him. His eyes were wrong, not glowing or monstrous, just too flat, too still, like video game reflections pasted onto a model. My voice cut through the radio again. "Control, this is Webb. I need you to confirm visual. Something's wrong with the east entrance." That voice sounded tired, irritated, exactly like me during a normal shift. That was the terrifying part. It didn't sound robotic. It sounded lived in, real, human, mine. I didn't answer. The alert had been clear, do not respond, but the figure on the screen tilted his head like he was waiting for me to slip, to talk, to make the first mistake. "Control," the voice repeated. "You there?" My pulse hammered so violently I could hear it in my ears. On camera 9, loading bay, the back of my hoodie disappeared behind a stack of crates. On camera 12, stairwell B, my boots descended one step at a time without revealing the face. On camera 7, parking garage, A shadow shaped like me stood between two pillars, perfectly still except for the slight sway of someone pretending to breathe. The grid was mapping me, multiplying me, learning me. And it was getting better with each new angle. That was when the black rack in the corner emitted a sharp mechanical click, like a lock disengaging. I froze. The tower's front panel slid open by itself, revealing a small recessed monitor I had never once seen active. It flickered twice, then displayed a live feed, the security room itself, me, sitting in the chair, watching the cameras, and in the reflection on the dark glass behind me, something else. I turned fast, but nothing was there, only the humming tower. When I looked back at the little screen, the reflection behind me was still visible. A silhouette. My silhouette, but taller. Shoulders too broad, head tilted slightly forward, posture rigid. Like a version of me stretched just enough to look human from a distance but monstrous up close. On the main monitors, the figure in the lobby stopped walking, stopped breathing, stopped pretending. It lifted one hand in a slow, deliberate motion and pressed it flat against the camera lens. My handprint, my fingerprints, perfect. The skin on my arms prickled. The version on the little recessed monitor in the rack suddenly leaned forward in the reflection, its head stretching closer to the back of my neck, yet the room around me stayed empty. Cold air brushed the side of my face even though all vents were off for the night. The building wasn't haunted, it was occupied. And the thing occupying it was using the cameras as eyes, the radio as a mouth, the reflections as rehearsal mirrors. "Marcus," my own voice said smoothly from the radio, "I'm near the stairwell. I need you to open the B-level access. I think someone broke in." No, I was the someone. I shut off my radio entirely, but as soon as I did, the emergency intercom system clicked on overhead. An automatic line I didn't control, and a soft version of my voice spoke through the building speakers. "Control, please respond. We have a breach in progress." Something metallic clanged 3 floors below, fast footsteps, heavy footfalls, moving the way I move when I'm in a hurry. Whatever was mimicking me wasn't confined to the cameras anymore. It was in the building, and it knew exactly where I would go next. I slammed the monitor controls to cycle the feeds manually. Camera 12, nothing. Camera 5, empty. Camera 9, still empty. Camera 3, the me in the lobby was gone, not walked out of frame. Gone like a dropped frame in a video. My heart kicked against my ribs. I checked every feed. Nothing. No figure, no shadow, no wrong smile. Nothing wearing my body, nothing using my voice, nothing pretending, which meant one thing: it wasn't in front of a camera, it was somewhere a camera couldn't see. The control room door handle clicked, slowly, softly, like a hand that knew exactly how much pressure I usually used on it. I stared at it, breath locked in my lungs. It turned halfway, stopped. Then my voice whispered through the crack at the bottom of the door, soft, friendly, familiar. "Marcus, I need you to let me in." The emergency alert had told me one rule: do not respond to anyone seen on camera performing actions you do not remember taking. But the alert didn't say what to do when the thing wasn't on camera anymore. And now it was outside my door. The door handle froze mid-turn, like whoever, or whatever, was on the other side suddenly realized I was standing inches away, listening. I didn't breathe, didn't blink. My heart thudded so loudly in my ears I thought the damn thing could hear it. Then, in a voice identical to mine, same rasp, same exhaustion, same subtle inflection from years of night shifts, the thing whispered, "Marcus, you're scaring them. Let me in so we can straighten this out." The casual tone hit me harder than any threat could have. That was how I sounded when calming tenants during false fire alarms. How many recordings of me had it studied? How long had it listened through the vents? I backed away from the door slowly, keeping my boots silent on the tile. The intercom overhead crackled before I could think. My own voice, my real voice, came out of the speakers but delayed, shifted. Like someone else was trying it on. "Control, confirm. Movement detected in west stairwell. Respond." My spine locked. That wasn't me. I was in the control room and I hadn't touched the radio. The room felt smaller all at once, the walls tighter like the whole building was holding its breath. I glanced at the monitors. Most feeds were static-laced now, but camera 6, loading bay flickered, then stabilized. A shadow moved between the crates. My shadow. Hoodie, jeans, boots, same stride, same small limp from an old ankle injury. It stepped into clear view and stopped in the center of the frame. I leaned toward the monitor, stomach twisting. Its face, no. Its mask wore my features too perfectly. Symmetry too exact. Movements too clean. It wasn't blinking. The lights in the loading bay flickered once, and when they came back on, the thing had moved closer to the camera without transitioning. No in-between steps, just closer. My breath caught. Something inside me, some old animal instinct, began to scream. I flicked to camera 12, stairwell B, empty. Camera 10, rear corridor, empty. Camera 8, elevator lobby, empty. But each feed had that same 2-second delay. Not a glitch, a filtration, a rerouting. Something was sitting between the cameras and the control room, curating what I saw. My phone buzzed in my pocket. I flinched so hard the chair rolled backward. I didn't remember setting my phone on vibrate. I pulled it out slowly. Unknown number. One new message. The preview made my blood freeze. Stop hiding from yourself. Then another message appeared instantly. No typing indicator, no delay. You can't monitor what's behind you. I didn't want to look. Didn't want to see what my reflection in the dark window might be doing. I forced myself to turn. Nothing, just the faint outline of my own shape in the glass, but something felt off. The reflection wasn't synced to my breathing. My chest rose and fell, it didn't. My reflection didn't fog the glass. I whipped around to check the monitor again. Camera 6, the mimic was gone. The loading bay was empty. My phone buzzed again. Check stairwell A, my hands shook as I switched to camera 1, stairwell A, the feed glitched. Static chewed through the frame in jagged biting lines. Then it cleared. The stairwell was dark except for the emergency strips glowing weak red. Halfway down the stairs, something sat on the landing. Sitting. In my hoodie, my jeans, my boots. Legs bent in a resting pose I knew too well, the way I sat during long shifts to stretch my back. Its head was tilted back, staring directly into the camera as if waiting for me. No smile now. Its face was blank, expressionless, skin too smooth under the low red light. My stomach dropped when I noticed its hands. They were clasped together in its lap in a praying gesture, something I'd never done in my life. The thing was improvising now, testing, learning new movements. My door handle clicked again, sharper this time, more impatient. Then my voice came through the crack under the floor. "Marcus, open the door. You're not safe alone in there, you know that." I stumbled backward, knocking into the edge of the desk. The light above flickered. Every monitor blinked. All feeds switched to a new camera view, camera 0. I had never seen that feed before. It wasn't labeled. The shot was from some unknown angle, looking into the security room from above, like a bird's-eye lens hidden in the ceiling tiles. The image showed me standing in the middle of the room, staring up at the screen. Except I wasn't alone. In the camera feed, a second figure stood directly behind me, inches away, leaning forward. Its head inches from my shoulder, tilted with that same unnatural stiffness. My breath died in my throat. I spun around. Nothing. But the camera feed still showed it, my copy, looming behind me. Its mouth opened wider than human jaws allow, stretching with a quiet splitting motion. On the monitor, the creature's face cracked slightly at the edges, a fissure running from the corner of its mouth to the cheek. No blood. Just a tear like skin printed on paper. The speakers exploded with a harsh tone, a long, low emergency siren I'd never heard before. Red text overlaid the camera feeds. AEG entity grid breach, identity compromise detected. All personnel, remain absolutely still. Absolutely still. Why? My heart pounded as I froze in place. The creature in the monitor froze too, mirroring me, but not perfectly. Its chest didn't move, its shoulders didn't rise and fall. Then one monitor, sublevel C, switched to live feed. That endless white hallway, the gray door at the end. I'd never seen it open in all my time working here. It was opening now. Slowly, something inside cast a long shadow on the floor, stretching outward like an uncoiling limb. My double whispered behind the camera, voice distorted, layered. "Marcus, they're coming to see which one of us is you." The siren cut out. A new message appeared across every screen. "Stay still for selection." And then all the monitors went black. When all the monitors went black at once, the control room felt like it had fallen into a deeper darkness than the building should have been able to hold. A darkness that didn't come from lack of light but from lack of witness. For the first time all night, I realized I couldn't tell if I was alone anymore. The air felt compressed, heavy, like someone stood inches from my face even though my eyes saw nothing. "Stay still for selection," the system had said. My legs locked, muscles twitching with the urge to run, but instinct told me movement was the one thing the building did not want, or the entity did not want, or whatever had just opened the door on sublevel C did not want. The silence stretched for 5, 10, 20 seconds, the kind of silence that isn't empty but listening. My heart hammered so loudly I wondered if it counted as movement. The tiny hairs on my arms rose. The darkness behind me thickened. Something was in the room. I didn't breathe, barely dared blink. For a moment, the silence deepened to an almost physical pressure, and then, faintly, a shape appeared in the reflection of the blank monitors. Not on the screen, in the glass. A silhouette standing directly behind me, so close its chest would have been pressed to my back, taller than me by a few inches, shoulders too broad. A shadow with my outline but stretched at the edges, like someone pulled the image outward and didn't fix the proportions. My throat closed. The silhouette didn't move, but the glass bent slightly around it, like heat distortion from something breathing warm air too close to a surface. Then slowly the monitors flickered back on, not to regular feeds, not to static, but to a new message, selection processing. Remain still. Every camera came back online, but not in the proper grid. They displayed angles I'd never seen. A view from inside the ventilation shaft above my chair. A perspective from somewhere behind the emergency fire panel. A ceiling view from a patch of tiles I knew didn't contain equipment. These weren't building cameras. These were entity cameras. Each feed showed me standing in the control room, and something tall, thin, slightly bent, circling just outside the edge of the light. The shape moved wrong, gliding instead of stepping, its joints not lining up under the skin. It didn't look like me anymore. It looked like something wearing a blueprint of me, testing proportions, adjusting them. Every time it passed a dark patch in the room, its outline shifted, narrower, wider, taller, like it was trying on different versions of my body to see which one fit best. My chest seized with cold panic. Whatever stepped out of sublevel C wasn't a person. It wasn't even a mimic like the one I saw earlier. It was the thing the mimic was made from. A prototype, or the source, or the collector. Something that came up from a floor that didn't officially exist to decide which Marcus Webb the building should keep, and which it should replace. The emergency speakers crackled overhead, and a voice, flat, neutral, machine-filtered, said, "Primary subject, Marcus Webb. Secondary subject, counterfeit form. Commence evaluation." Two images flashed across the monitors, me, and the mimic from earlier, now in the stairwell, standing perfectly still, its hoodie and jeans subtly twitching like fabric reacting to a draft that didn't exist. For a moment I thought I'd hallucinated the earlier distortions. But no, its wrists were too stiff, its elbows too sharp, its neck slightly longer than mine. The mimic's face was expressionless, but its eyes locked onto mine through the camera with a hunger that paralyzed me. The voice overhead continued, "Begin parallel response test." The mimic's lips curled into a slow smile, and then it moved. Not toward the camera, not toward me, but mirroring my posture exactly. I stood stiff, muscles coiled. It stood stiff, muscles coiled. I swallowed. It swallowed. I blinked. It blinked in the same rhythm except the timing was off by a fraction of a second. A tiny glitch, a stutter, a crack in the imitation. But the entity in the room didn't care. It stepped closer behind me. I could feel the air pressure shift like something massed and heavy leaned in. My knees trembled. The speakers spoke again. Mirroring analysis. Match inconsistent. Initiate discrepancy challenge. On-screen text appeared. Move your right hand. My blood turned to ice. If I moved my right hand, the mimic would copy me. Perfectly. And if it matched well enough, the system might decide I was the counterfeit. But if I didn't move, the system would think I wasn't responding, and that I was the imposter. I stared at the blank window reflection across the room, my own silhouette superimposed on the dark glass. The taller figure behind me rippled faintly like fabric shifting in a breeze. It wanted to see what I would do. My mind clawed through memories, trying to remember something, anything, that a copy couldn't emulate. A flaw, a scar, a habit buried too deep to learn. And then it hit me, my old injury. When I was 17, I'd fractured a bone in my right hand in a warehouse accident. Even healed, the movement was never perfectly smooth. There was always a tiny hitch, a micro delay in the index finger. Something no camera would notice. Something only I knew. Slowly, very slowly, I lifted my right hand and let the old injury guide the motion, letting my fingers tremble exactly the way they always had. The mimic mirrored me on screen, but its movement was too clean, too symmetrical, too exact. For the first time, there was no fear in my chest, only certainty. The mimic wasn't me. The building's voice echoed, counterfeit identified. I exhaled and the mimic's face twisted, not in fear, in rage. It lunged toward the stairwell camera and the feed cut to static. The tall figure behind me moved at the same moment. I heard it, a shift of weight, a rasp of air, but I didn't turn. Couldn't turn. The screams didn't sound human at first. They were too jagged, too stretched, like someone trying to imitate terror without understanding the anatomy of a throat. They rose from the stairwell in violent bursts, each one echoing off the concrete walls until it became a chorus of overlapping shrieks, high, low, fractured, distorted, like a dozen voices being torn out of alignment at once. Something was happening to the mimic, something the building called entity retrieval, something I realized no one had ever survived. I stayed frozen in my chair because the system told me not to move, and because breaking the rule felt like stepping into the mouth of a machine that was waiting for me to misstep. The control room lights dimmed until they were barely a pulse. The monitors flickered through distorted video fragments, stairwell footage glitching with static, a frame of something long and bone-white dragging itself upward, a snapshot of the mimic's leg spasming wildly as it was yanked by something unseen, then a blur of movement, too fast, too angular to be anything human. The screams abruptly cut off, replaced by a thump, then another, then three in a row, something heavy hitting the stairwell walls as it was being dragged down, and then silence so complete it felt like it punched the air out of my lungs. The red emergency text vanished from the screens, replaced by a neutral message, counterfeit, resolved, primary subject confirmed, system resetting, remain still. The presence behind me faded. Not like it walked away, more like it dissolved or folded itself into the darkness like a collapsing tent. My body unlocked all at once. My knees buckled, and I steadied myself on the edge of the desk. I waited 20 long seconds before daring to turn around. Nothing there. No shadow. No outline. No distortion in the air, just the control room, just me. For a moment I let myself believe it was over, that I had survived selection. That the thing pretending to be me was gone. That I had proven I was the real Marcus Webb. That the building would release me now, let me finish the shift, let me go home. Then the monitors changed again. Not all at once, one by one in sequence from left to right like flipping pages in a book. Each screen showed a different corridor in the building, but something in each corridor was wrong. Doors were propped open that should have been locked. Clocks displayed impossible times, flickering backward through numbers. Shadows on the floor didn't match the objects casting them. On feed 12B, I saw a janitor cart roll on its own, wheels spinning without friction even though no one was pushing it. On 4A, a hallway was stretched, literally stretched, like the ceiling had been pulled upward 10 more feet without breaking the supports. Then feed 7F changed and my heart froze. It was the exit hallway, the one leading directly to the staff parking lot. I could see my truck through the glass doors, faintly illuminated by the security lights outside. It looked normal, completely normal. But standing beside it, motionless, head tilted upward like it was staring at the nearest camera, was me. Not the mimic, not the glitchy lopsided version. Me, same hoodie, same jeans, same stance. Same exact movements I'd made earlier tonight when I'd walked in. Except this version wasn't distorted. It wasn't stuttering. It wasn't glitching. It was perfect. A perfect copy. My voice crackled through the overhead speakers. "Let me in, it's me. Open it, open it." The panel beside the door flickered red. Unauthorized attempt detected. The other me reached up and touched the glass door slowly, almost lovingly, with the palm of its hand. And the lights outside dimmed under its touch like the electricity itself recoiled. I felt a cold wave crawl down my spine. The building had identified the mimic, but it had only identified one. I wasn't dealing with a single copy. I wasn't even dealing with a single entity. There were more of them, maybe many more. The facility intercom chimed softly and a calm, automated voice, not the emergency voice, spoke. "Notice. Multiple subjects match primary biometrics. Initiate isolation lockdown. Do not exit the facility." My stomach dropped. Multiple subjects, multiple me. The building hadn't proven that I was the real one. It had only proven which one was the worst imitation, which meant the others, more accurate copies, were still out there, and one was waiting at my truck. The monitors blacked out again, not from power loss, from choice, from system override. When they returned, all feeds showed the same thing. The same corridor, the same door, the same perfect double of me, but now it was closer, standing inside the building, in the hallway, looking directly into the nearest camera as if it knew I was watching. It raised one hand and curled its index finger in a slow, come-here motion, and the intercom spoke again, my voice, calm and steady. "There can't be two of us, Marcus." The perfect double took one step toward the control room. "Come out." Another step. "I need to finish the alignment." Another. "I need you." I backed into the far corner of the control room as the overhead lights began to flicker in sync with the double's footsteps. The system, my only protection, gave one last warning. "Primary subject AT risk. Seek secure location." A new door appeared on the schematic map in the corner of one monitor, one I'd never seen before. Sublevel D. A floor even lower than where the entity had come from. A floor the building wanted me to enter. The footsteps outside the control room stopped just beyond the door.